Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks so much for stopping by today. Today I am participating in the monthly card hopping event. If you're interested in learning more about that, I'll go ahead and leave links below. Basically, we do a different theme and technique every month. This month's theme is favorite stamp, and the techniques are either going to be ink swiping or color blocking. I'm going to be doing a little bit of color blocking for my technique, so I'm going to show several different ways to do that. And one of my favorite stamps is this indigo blue stamp that's called Peony Posey. It's a red rubber stamp. It is one of my absolute favorites, and I just noticed today that there is a horse on this stamp. I don't know if you caught that when I showed the packaging for the stamp, but I never noticed that until today. So strange. I've had it for a few years, but for the first card, I'm going to do color blocking with cardstock. So I have this package of Tim Holtz Coordinations cardstock, I believe, and this cardstock matches at the time whatever the distress colors out at that time were, and I believe this had a copyright date on the packaging of 2011, so I've had this for a little bit, and I thought I'd go ahead and make use of it. So I didn't want to tear the whole sheet of paper out, so I just went ahead and cut what would fit across a piece of cardstock, and I chose colors or shades of blue. I also did put kind of a tan or greenish color in there and ended up not using that, and so I'm taking a just white card panel, and I am using my tape runner to add adhesive to that entire background. You can use a full sheet of adhesive, or you can glue it, or whatever you would like to do. I found this to be the easiest way to do this. And then I'm just going to adhere those blocks of color, and then take my paper trimmer and trim off all of the excess. And for this first card, I decided to go ahead and use some Pearl X pigment powder for the stamp. So I'm going to ink up the stamp in some Versamark embossing ink, and then I will take this little double-ended tool. These are actually Maker Forte tools that I'm using. I use these with their kaleidoscope powders, which are a similar product. This is going to add a lot of shine, and so I'm just taking this double-ended tool, dipping it into my little jar of Pearl X, and then just kind of pouncing it all across the embossed ink. And then once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and take this powder brush and just wipe all of the excess off. And then to set this, I am going to use some hairspray to spray over that. I've found that hairspray works great for setting these powders, but you can also try using a little bit of water. And this is a super detailed stamp, so it's not going to show you for any of the cards, really, I don't think, except for the one I do in black, the detail that is in this stamp. But to finish this off, I use this Spellbinder's die, a Tim Holtz sticker sentiment, along with some silver thread and a few embellishments. And this method of color blocking is super easy. It's a great way to use up your scraps, and so that was a super fun card to make. The second way I'm going to do some color blocking is using some acrylic blocks. You can use whatever acrylic blocks you have, big, small, round, shaped, squared, whatever you have in your stash is fine for this technique. And the colors that I'm using in the distress ink are speckled egg, wilted violet, twisted citron, and the kitchj flamingo. And basically for the first one, I used two colors. So I used the kitchj flamingo and the wilted violet. I put half of the ink on one half of the block and the other half the other color of ink, and then I spritzed that with water. And when I put this on my paper, I hold it down for probably about 30 seconds with a bit of pressure, just to make sure that that ink transfers over onto my cardstock. And this is a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock. And then I'm going to take the smaller acrylic block and do the same thing with the twisted citron and the speckled egg. And in between these layers, I am drying this because I didn't want the colors to mix too much. And so I did dry in between the color blocking. And then I decided to go ahead and grab the stencil from my stash and use those same colors to add a light stencil effect over the entire background. And then I'm going to put my panel into my Misty. And for all of these, since this is a red rubber stamp, I have taken out the foam piece in my Misty and used just the platform. And this one, I think the stamp looks the best in black, so I used some Versafine Clair to stamp this one up, and then added a sentiment that says hello. I believe this was a Sizzix Tim Holtz set of sentiments. I added a little bit of splatter and a few embellishments on this one, and that completes this card. And they're super quick and easy with a little bit of subtlety with the stencil and the color blocking. So this is probably my favorite card. I am taking a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card panel and trimming off, I believe it's about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And then I'm going to be using some white pigment ink. So I've prepped this panel with my embossing bag because I will be using some white embossing powder over this white pigment ink. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up onto my panel. And then I am going to add that white embossing powder and then use my heat tool to melt that powder onto my card. And then I'm going to cut the card into different pretty much square or rectangle shapes. I just wanted to cut it up into several different pieces. And since this is a super detailed stamp, I had a bit of trouble trying to piece this back together. So it probably would have been best if I had maybe marked where these went. But it took me about 10 minutes of kind of looking at it to figure out where these all went together. But to color these, I am using some Distress Spray Stain. And the colors that I'm using are Seedless Preserves, Picked Raspberry, Squeezed Lemonade, Salvaged Patina, Twisted Citron, and Abandoned Coral. These are some of my favorite colors, and I wanted to do a rainbow of colors. And so I'm putting this in my splatter box, and I am just spritzing that color over each of the little strips of paper, and there are 6 in all. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and dry each of these. And then to get off the remaining wetness from the cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and take a paper towel and just blot the entire piece, and that will get the ink off of that embossed area as well. And then I'm going to add a spritz of water to distress that a little bit, and then blot that ink up with a paper towel. And then here I have it put together. So this was after I kind of puzzled it together, and I am going to go ahead and piece these back together and adhere them with tape. So basically I'm flipping it over on the other side and then taking some Scotch tape to just piece these together so that I can have an entire panel again. Now you can do this anyhow you want to do it. You can leave a little bit of space between each of the color blocks so that there's a little bit of white space or whatever your background is showing between each of the colors. But I decided to just go ahead and make it easy for myself and just piece them all back together as a single piece. And then I will add some double-sided adhesive and add that to a white card panel. And then I'm using this Label Love sentiment from Altenew, and I popped that up with a piece of foam tape. So this is my favorite card right here. I like the vibrancy of that distress ink or distress spray. If you have a favorite of these cards, please leave a comment below. Let me know which one is your favorite. Don't forget to go ahead and check out the link for the next person in the hop. Our hops are short and sweet, so I hope you will visit each of the participants in the hop. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I hope to catch you next time.